All right, welcome to secret number 1. This has to do with king and D spilling. So once I learned this technique, it saved me a lot of time and a lot of effort on stuff. The setup was maybe a teeny bit longer, but in the long run, it saved me having to go back and make a lot of changes and fixes and things like that. So this technique definitely is something that will change the way you will start king and will make your keys look a million times better. And we all know that as compositors, king is something that's inevitable. It will come up. There's always a project where you will have to do some type of king. So I feel like this is a very, very important topic to cover. So let's jump over into Nuke. This isn't a Nuke tutorial, but this is more of the techniques. You can apply these techniques in After Effects, Fusion, whatever. But I want to show you the techniques that you can use to get killer looking keys and save yourself a lot of revisions. So let's jump over into Nuke. So here is our shot that we have. And traditionally, I want to show you what I used to do. So I used to just throw a simple key light. So we have this key light right here. And you can see there's the alpha that we pulled from that one key. And, you know, then you just kind of, you'll do like a simple roto, and there you go. There's our guy out. So a couple things with this is the edges are incredibly hard. We don't have any semi-transparencies and a lot of missing information. And then down here we have too much information because there was a lot of light changes. And this is kind of what it started looking like over the image. And you'll see that the D-spill didn't quite get those edges very well. So now we have a D-spill problem and we have a key that's not quite good. So that's the first problem. And the solution is you never just want to use one key. So in this next setup, what I did is I combined multiple keys. So I took a kind of a core key, and then you want to start adding in edges. And you can start isolating. So think of, you know, when you're keying one thing, it's broken up into many pieces. So now on this key, instead of just getting the whole body, now I can add in some of that edge detail. So some of that hair and other parts. And then as we move along, we can start getting some other parts in here. So now that we just added some of those edges back in, and now we're getting some nice soft edges, some semi-transparencies. And that's the other thing is people always think that you need to make everything completely solid white. And you don't. There's some areas that like hair and when things are moving fast that it's okay to have things that are semi-transparent. And then if we wanted to get rid of some of the stuff down here on the floor, we can do that as well. And we're just adding and rotoing in and mixing different parts of the key. So now we're getting a result. This versus maybe something like this. I'm just going to do a wipe so you can see we have a pretty significant difference. We're getting more detail, and basically we're breaking this key up into parts. So that's something you need to remember when keying is don't do just one key, break it up into multiple keys. So have a core and then work on the edges and find where you need to bring back some of that detail. So in this one, I used 3 different keys. I could have even used more depending on where I need to. And it's definitely going to be worthwhile to do that. So now, once we've done a key, obviously some people think that that's good enough and it's ready to go. But when you start keying and you start messing with some of the colors to get a really good alpha, you start ruining your D-spill. And we can see that this D-spill compared to the original footage is completely different. Yes, we pulled the green out, but now look, we have a couple of issues. The RGB or the colors, tons of artifacts in it, and we have these white edges. So in the past, I used to think, oh, these white edges are because I didn't key this properly. I need to key it or erode it even more to get rid of that white line. And that's not necessarily the problem. The problem isn't our alpha. The problem is the D-spill. So what if we did a separate pass as a D-spill, and then we had another pass as our alpha, and we bring those together? And this is what we can do. So now I'm going to show you, if you pull a simple technique in Keylight, you know, adding a 1 or 2 to this, and then I say, what is the difference between this and this and this? So I want to see the difference between this result and this result. And with that, I can use what's called a from, or you can use a couple of different other merges, but I used a from right here, and we can see the difference between these images. So that now it's black and green, and you can see the green represents all the stuff that's the difference between the two that we took out. Now if I desaturate this, this is pretty much the luminosity. And let me just show you what that would look like if we pulled this and plus it over. So now this is the despilled version of this, and it kept our luminosity. And let me just show you a wipe with this. So so now you'll see we just removed that green really simply. And all we did was we did add a screen color of green. So in here just a little bit, we show the difference of it. So this versus the difference of this gave us this result. We desaturate it, and that gives us our luminosity, luminance values, and then there you go. I plus it back on top of our footage. And now you can see that's properly despilled, removed all that green out of our shot, and it looks really nice and kept the luminosity. And again, if I show this as 2 and we wipe between these two, what you should see is no change in luminosity, just the color green should be pulled out of there completely. So that's really important. Then let's see what this would look like with this being merged over our footage. So if I take, and I'll show you this a bit later, well, maybe I'll just show you this right now. So then we take our alpha from our multiple key, and we take this despill that we just created, and we bring them together with in Nuke is called the copy node. So your RGB is your despill, and your alpha is the alpha that we created, and together they're going to create this result. Now you're thinking, well, great, that's all great, but now I have this crazy white halo. And especially if you merge it over, you'll see it's on those edges right there, and it's on the edges there. So now you have to deal with this white halo. Well, there's another solution to fix this as well. What we can do is, once we went back to our difference and then desaturating out the luminance, we then could maybe multiply this over our background that we're going to be plussing. So let me just drag this right here. So now we're going to take that desaturated difference, and we're going to multiply it over our background. And what this is going to give us is now our despill is going to have color in it. We're going to reintroduce color into this. And we're doing this so that our edges are taking on some of that, some of those color values. So if I show you what this looks like now, you can see these edges have part of the background color in it, like that. So that when you merge this over, it looks like it belongs. So you can see there it is, and there it's with it. And let me just show you before I did that. So there's that white edge. And then once I multiplied that background, now you can see that we have the color going all the way in. So that wasn't our alpha. Before I used to think I need to erode that to get rid of that white line, when really you need to mess with your despill. And the other thing you can do is you can have multiple colors in your despill. So if someone has, maybe yellow blonde hair, you could create a mask or roto shape for wherever their hair is. Or if you have a certain area that the edges aren't working properly, you could create some backgrounds and with some different colors to be able to help fix or extend those edges in your despill. And like I said, once you combine all this together, you then get a much more realistic look where your edges now are working properly versus something like this, where our key, this is the one with our key, the colors, the RGB is completely ruined, and we have these edges, and it looks awful compared to this. So let me just show you wipe between these two. This is the bad one. And oh, let me also make sure that I'm using the same background so you can see the difference. So this is before and this is after. It's much more cleaner result, retains a lot of that information we originally had, and we're able to get those edges blending properly. So that's my secret number one for keying. Just to recap, it's not using a single key, it's using multiple keys, doing your D spill separately from your key and combining those, and using a multiply or overlay composite mode to be able to help fix some of those dark or light edges. So I hope this was a super helpful tip or trick that you guys can use in your workflow. Again, you can apply the same thing in After Effects, Fusion, Nuke, whatever you're using, but use these tips and these tricks, and I guarantee that your keys are going to look much better. You're going to have less revisions, and you're going to be much happier with your result. So again, I hope this was super awesome and helpful for you. Look forward to tomorrow's next secret and tip, and it'll be a really good one. So we will see you guys tomorrow in the next video.